everyone. Welcome to episode 62 of the arieknits podcast. My name is Ariel, and this is a video podcast where I talk about all the things that I have been knitting and spinning on for the past week. So today it is Saturday, February 17th, and I have a couple finished objects to share with you all today, and I'm really excited about it because I don't know why, but I feel like it's been a while since I've finished something, but that could also just be because I haven't cast on, it feels like I haven't cast on anything new in a while, and it's because I am trying to just like finish up some of my projects that have, especially like the older ones. I just really want to finish those up before I cast on some new bigger projects, although I do have a new cast on this week. It is a test knit. It's my first test knit of this year. So yeah, lots of cool things to share with you. I also have some sewing projects to show you. I think it's been a while since I have actually sewn something. I think I went the entire of last year, like 2023, of not sewing anything. So this year I have fabric. I have a small fabric stash now because I did sew a couple of things, even more than a couple of things. I got a sewing machine in 2022 and I sewed like some dresses and some shirts, and I really liked it. I have a small-ish fabric stash and I just didn't sew it all last year. So this year I also want to sew some things, and so I have some of those in progress that I would love to share with you all too. So yeah, let's get started. So what I am wearing today is also one of my finished objects for this week. It is the Eun Sweater by NovemberKnits, and yeah, you can see it right here. I will stand up after I give some details about it so you can see how it fits and how it looks. It is finished knitting and blocking, so it is like the fully finished object. I used Woolberry Fiber Co. Berry Natural DK plus Berry Suri, both in the colorway Stash, and I knit size 1. I used US 7 and 8 needles for this, which I believe is the recommended needle size. And my final measurements, I got 44 inches in circumference, and this is the smallest size, and so that's actually pretty large. It does give me a lot of positive ease. It gives me about 14 inches of positive ease, and believe it or not, I am actually 1 inch smaller in circumference than the pattern states for this size. So my final measurements after blocking, I measured this 44 inches in circumference. The pattern says 45, so I guess my gauge was just like slightly off, but even with it being a little small, it is quite large. Again, 14 inches of positive ease, but I do like how it fits. I can see myself wearing this, especially when I want to be pretty cozy, because it is a DK plus Suri weight sweater, and so it is pretty warm. But yeah, let me stand up and then we can talk about more of the fits on this. So let me stand up and kind of do this weird arm thing here. You can't even see the hem because it is not a cropped sweater on me. Here it is. I'm gonna hold up my arms. So here it is. I'm trying to give you maybe some like reference points to where, actually let me try and move this chair out of the way for now so I can actually stand up. Okay, here we go. Yeah. Okay, so first things first, if you haven't ever seen this sweater before, it has a very long split hem, and so where it connects under the arm to where you split for the hem, it's like just like a couple inches under the arm before it splits. But I am wearing a shirt under this, and I just really like the look of this very long split hem here. You can see it is a 2x2 rib hem, and it is quite oversized. I will say I've been talking a lot about like armhole depth and like the size of armholes, and this one has a very large armhole and a very long like raglan increase, and so I will go like this, and I'll show you my underarm is like right here. And so my waist is about here, I would say. My belly button's like right here, just for reference points. And even though the raglan, like again, my underarm stops like right here, and so my elbow is like right here. So you can kind of see that reference point. Like even though it is very long, I think it actually helps with the split hem not looking too crazily like high on the body. Although I think that if I make this again, I probably would maybe take off 1 inch of this raglan, and I would have to adjust stitches and all of that, but if I ever make this again, I'll have to figure that out. But actually overall, like wearing this, it does in some ways of me holding my arms looks like it's really big, but I like wearing it. It doesn't feel large when I'm wearing it, if that kind of makes sense. I guess the armholes do feel pretty large because my elbow is like right here from where that underarm split is, but yeah, this is how it looks on me. I'll bring my chair back here. Okay. Yeah, overall, I will say it did grow a bit when I blocked it, and I'm trying to think, like, because I didn't measure it before I blocked versus after I blocked, but I did put it on before I blocked and after, and it did grow a bit lengthwise. So that is something to probably just like keep in mind if you are going to make this. But and also because I know that because the sleeves were slightly longer on me, so they do go kind of like to my, I guess my knuckles here. But as I've stated before, I do prefer my sleeves to be a little longer than shorter, so it's totally fine with me. And it adds to kind of like that cozy feeling, because then you can kind of, like put your hands in the sleeves. I kind of like doing that sometimes when I'm cold, so it is kind of nice. And the only thing, and again, this is not like a fault of the pattern or anything, it's just a personal preference, which is also something I could have changed for the sweater, but I purposefully did not, that the sleeves there are a few decreases throughout the sleeve, but overall, like, the circumference around the wrist is pretty big, and so if I were to roll up my sleeves because I needed this part of my arm to be available, this is mostly just for like washing my hands or doing the dishes, like it will fall. But I thought about doing decreases to make the cuff tighter around the wrist, but I just feel like with how the sweater looks style-wise, or like just the design overall of being oversized, and that the hem is just this really long, wide thing, that it matches to have kind of just wider sleeves, and so I just followed it to pattern. I did follow this pattern to however it says, and so I followed the measurements and lengths, whatever it says to do, and yeah, I do like the outcome. I'm very happy I finally have this Eun sweater, because it's been like, I think it's been maybe like a year from when I thought to myself that I wanted to make one, and now to have one. So very happy with it. I'm happy that it is with some really nice yarn too. I really like this color, and I kind of just I feel like I am, when I look at my yarn stash and I'm thinking about patterns I want to make this year, I kind of wonder if I'm gonna go through like a tonal phase, because I do like variegated yarn and love all the colors, and I have a lot of variegated yarn in my stash, but I am definitely feel like I am liking kind of like the tonal look. I know that this color though has a lot of depth, and I really do like that. about it. I actually don't know if this is considered a tonal. It probably is, but you can definitely see that it's not just like a flat color. You can see like the brown, orangey, red spots in certain areas, and I really like that. So yeah, anyway, those are my thoughts on this sweater, and I really pushed through this week to get it done. I believe that all I had to work on for this week was to finish up the second sleeve. I believe that's what it was. So not too much pressure there, or not, I wasn't trying to scramble to finish it. I just had to make sure I spent some time on it. So yeah, I'm very happy that I have it done and that I can wear it. And oh, one more thought. I was definitely worried about how this would look on me, because the split hem, again, is like the huge kind of design feature on this this knit. And I was worried that if I made sure that when I blocked it that I pulled this part to make sure that the ribbing didn't kind of like collapse inwards, because I do not like the look of it. I'm trying to move back again, sorry. I don't like the look of it being like, if it was too skinny and then you could like see the sides. I like the look of like this drapey kind of like skirt feel coming from the hem. And so yeah, when I blocked, I just made sure that I pulled the ribbed hem sideways. Like, I didn't really pull that hard, but I just made sure that it was pretty straight from to the sides, same width as a sweater pretty much. So yeah, okay, I think that's all the things I wanted to say about this. Again, I'm very happy with it and that I can still wear it and be comfortable because it is pretty warm, but the weather's been a little cool lately. So yeah, so that's good. Okay, next up, because I said I had, did I say I had two? I have two finished objects. So this was finished object number 1, and I have a second finished object. Maybe, can you guess it? It is the Mackenzie shawl by Sari Nordlund, and it is done. It is finished. This was a very long, literally long finished object, and I blocked it too, and so it is fully done. This has been, I looked at the date that I started this, and I think it might have been almost 6 months ago. And it wasn't like, it was a very occasional knit that I just wanted to get some work on done like every week, and I think I accomplished that, but it did take me so long. But it is a very long finished object. It is it's basically a 2-color brioche scarf thing, and here I'm trying to show you the entire length of it. It is way taller than me. It is like for sure taller than me. I did measure it lengthwise, and this is like not even, because it is brioche and it is really like stretchy. If I were to hold it up like just like this, the weight of it kind of makes it a bit longer. And so the way I measured this, I folded it in half because my tape measure doesn't go that long. And also it's so long, I don't know if there's, I guess if I put it on the ground somewhere, but I didn't really want to put it on the ground. I just wanted to put it somewhere clean. So I folded it in half, measured that, and then doubled it. So that's how I measured it. It is 88 inches long, and surprisingly, I thought that mine's ended up longer than the pattern states for its size, but it's actually shorter. I think the pattern says like 95 inches, so it's pretty close, but I was surprised it wasn't like a bunch longer, because when I blocked this, I was like, oh my gosh, the brioche just like stretches so much. Even if you try to really like handle it really nicely, it does kind of stretch a lot. So anyway, that I'm just Wow, it's been a long time coming for this. I'm very happy it is done. You will no longer hear about this. It will not be the start of my whip section on the videos anymore. I'll have to find another project to be like my long-term project. I mean, I already have one. I have my blanket, but yeah, my Mackenzie shawl. It's been with us for so long already. But yeah, here it is. So I don't think I talked about the yarn yet. It is Olivia and Oliver Fibers Classic Sock. Both of these colors in Feather, which is the white speckle, and then Woodland, which is like the brown variegated speckle. And I love how it looks on both sides. It does have this very interesting, it's just your normal 2-color brioche, but it has this diagonal garter stitch line that runs through it, and there's 4 of them, and you can see it better on this light side, of course, but it is done. It is so squishy. It is so long. I am trying to figure out how I would wear this because it is just so long. Like, look, okay, if I wrap it around both sides like this, then it is still, like, there's still a good amount of length. Actually, this is probably how I would wear it. Just wrap it around twice, and it's nice and squishy. It is nice and squishy, and because it is fingering weight, it doesn't feel really that heavy, which is super nice. So you get a really squishy, warm thing without it feeling super heavy. So this might look like it might be like a lot of fabric, but because brioche is so like fluffy and airy, it doesn't feel overwhelming to wear. It doesn't feel like I'm kind of like choking myself or something. It just feels really nice. And so I do not know how I'm going to take finished object pictures of this. I'll have to figure it out. I'll probably have to take a whole bunch of different configurations of this to see what works best. But yeah, it is done, and I'm so glad it is done, because now that I have this done, I have ideas for more cast-ons for long, large shawl object things that I want to cast on, which I still have more shawls that I want to finish before casting on another shawl, but I just finished one, so I won't feel too bad if it just so happens I cast on another shawl project this week. But yeah, this is it's so big, but it's so pretty. I love the colors, and yeah, the Mackenzie pattern it's one of Sari Nordlund's older patterns, like last few years ago was probably when it came out, so it's not one of her newer patterns, but it was on my mind to knit for a very long time, and it took me a long time to knit it, so just to have it all done, and it's so nice, very happy with it. So yeah. This is a one-size pattern, and I've said this in previous videos, but just to say it since we are talking about it, and it's finished now, and so I probably won't be talking about it again. I think that once you get the pattern down and you understand what's going on, it's very easy, or should be very it's very easy to modify to have different configuration of how many stitches you cast on, so you can change the width. You can probably make it in different yarn weights, and you can adjust the number of stitches you cast on, how thick or wide your diagonal garter stitch line is in it. It is something that you could configure for a lot of different yarn weights and different sizes, different length, different width. So I think it's very a good pattern to kind of play around with, and to get different versions out of it if you want. But I probably won't be making this again anytime soon, because it took me so long. But if it ever happens that I have some yarn for something that would be good in this, a nice 2-color contrast thing, this would be a good one to make again and to have something really nice and squishy. And I use US 4 needles to make this. So yeah, so that is the Mackenzie shawl. That is the end for the Mackenzie shawl and for the Eun sweater. So 2 finished objects this week. I feel very accomplished by it. I really wanted to get those done. So next up is my whips, my works in progress. So I think that this will probably be one of my projects that I talk about at the start of my whips section of the video, and that is my Sweet Shop blanket, because this will be a slightly kind of long-term project. Last time I showed it to you all, I finished the spring colors of the squares, the 4x4 square of the spring colors, and just because it's so pretty, let me just show it to you all again. The spring colors, but that means this week was the start of the summer colors, which are really fun and bright. And I would say that they are out of my comfort zone of maybe having like a full garment in these colors to wear, but I do think that they are cute and fun and definitely really nice to knit with these colors when it's cold and rainy and not super sunny outside. So here's the first 2 colors, the first sock set of the summer season box sock set from Pasley Knits, last year's boxes. So here it is, my 2x2 square, and oh, I have the yarn here, the colors. So this is the variegated, and it is Lemonade Stand is this yellow one, which makes sense because it's yellow and white variegated. I also feel like some of the yellow there's some green-ish in there, like a green tinge, and so yeah, just some things to know. I think it's really nice to add that extra depth besides just seeing the yellow and white. And then the bright blue or aqua color there is Zakynthos. Probably saying that wrong, but yeah, that is the 2 colors for the first sock set. And yeah, this pattern's going well. I'm getting into the groove of it, and I am starting to remember the instructions for how to make the squares, because there is like pickup stitches, and so also I adjusted the size of my squares, so I have less stitches in them than in the pattern. So finally I'm getting like those numbers down in my head, and so I don't have to read the pattern for every single square that I make. And a lot of the times, and I don't think I've talked about this, I don't want to talk too much about the construction, mostly because it is a paid pattern and I don't want to like give up too much of that, I guess, but there are different instructions on how to pick up depending on what square you are knitting. So for example, the squares on the bottom here, you only pick up this edge on this edge. But if I'm knitting like this square, I would already have 1, 2, 3 square done, and so I'd have to pick up on 2 of these edges here. And so the instructions are just different. So the one that I think you would probably end up knitting the most of is this square, this type of square where you pick up on both edges. And I think that I have it memorized, which is really nice. So that's kind of like how I've been working on it so far, or for the summer colors. And yeah, let me just hold up everything I have, I guess, just for the sake of showing you the entire progress. So the summer square will be right next to the spring square, and that's how we're going. That's how I'm gonna do it. So we've got we have 3 more squares to go for, or 3 more like these size squares, like sock set squares, to go finish for the summer sock sets, and I think it'll be really fun. There's a really cute, like really bright pink one that is coming up, and I don't know if that's going to be the one that I knit next, but we'll see. Every week I am planning on trying to finish, you know, a 2x2 square, or basically a sock set every week. And so every week, I think that that's a fun thing, where every week I show you this blanket and you'll see a new pair of colors on it. So it's been fun for me so far. It feels less stressful to, it doesn't feel stressful to have to do 4 squares every week, because even though each square, it's still surprising me how long it takes to do each square. It does take me over an hour to do 1 square, like one square, but for 7 days in a week, doing 4, that's less than a square a day. And there's some days where I just want to do 2, and you know, then it feels pretty chill. I don't have to work on it every day. Don't feel the pressure to have to work on it every day. So it's been really nice so far, and I still feel very motivated for this blanket. So yeah, it's been going well. So that is my Sweet Shop blanket. Oh, I am using US 6 needles for this. I believe that is the recommended needle size. And yeah, look how cute. I get to fold it up like this and have like the different squares. Okay, next up I have another long project that I've been working on. This is another one. I really would love to get this done within the next few months. This is, where's my stitch marker? Okay, this is the Midnight Jasmine wrap by Alexi from Two of Wands, and this was my project I cast on in 2022, and I did not work on it at all in 2023. So 2024 is the year I will get this done, and it's another one of the projects I want to make progress on every week, and so I want to be able to show it every week to show you progress. Keep myself accountable for working on it. And yeah, the yarn I'm using for this is Lion Brand Two of Wands Color Theory yarn, and 6 different colors. So yeah, this is a one size wrap shawl thing, and I'm using the 3.75 millimeter crochet hook for this. I crochet very loose, and so I found myself having to size down like a lot for crochet things, and so that's just how it is. And I can show you the progress I made. So the way I've been trying to do this is put a stitch marker on the last flower that I made, and then I can just count the flowers in the row that I've made for the week. And I believe that that's 9 flowers for this week, and that also is finishing up, I think, row 6 of this shawl. It is a triangle shawl, and you start with the longest row, and so each row is less flowers now, and yeah, it feels good to have another row down. 6 rows, and they just keep getting shorter. So that's where I'm at. I think it's looking really cute. I like the colors I chose for this. I feel like someone could be like, those are not great colors to put together, but I'm liking it. I'm liking it. So yeah, I want to have this finished object, and I think that it would be, I don't know if it's something I would wear out. Like when I'm finished with it, I don't know if it's something I would wear out and about, like while I'm going out, but I feel like at home it'd be something really cute. I think because of the flowers, like it would be cute to just have hanging on a chair or something as like decor, although maybe it'll just look like I'm a mess because I just have my knitting everywhere all the time. Although this is crochet, yes, I know. But yeah, I do like how this looks. It is a thing you definitely should weave in your ends as you go, And that's what I've been doing. So every flower I finish, I will weave in the ends right away before I start the next one. And you can see the back, I guess. I don't know if this says anything, but just to show you the back of it versus the front. Yeah, I do enjoy that it is a, how would you say, like you don't have to sew them together either. And this goes also for actually the Sweet Shop blanket as well. I'm weaving in the ends after each square, and you don't have to sew the squares together. You just knit it as you connect it as you knit. And this one's the same. You are connecting it as you crochet each of the petals, and I think that that's really nice and makes it feel less of a tedious task. So yeah, that is my quick progress update on my Midnight Jasmine wrap. I think that I don't think that I could get 10 flowers done each week, but if I did, I would maybe have 60 more flowers left to go. And if I did do 10 per week, that would be 6 weeks. So let's just give myself a couple months. Let's say 3 months to finish this. I think that that's not bad, because I also don't want it to drag on through the entire year. It would be nice to get it done in the first half of this year. But yeah, that's my Midnight Jasmine wrap. And then, okay, another shawl, because I'm just all about the shawls and like big projects. Big projects that are not sweaters. This is my Daft Day shawl by Rebecca Clow, Creabea. And it is finally getting wide enough where it is scrunching on my needles. So showing this will start to get a little bit harder to show you all because I don't want it to fall off my needles. This is a shawl pattern. It has a interesting stitch pattern, because it's not just like stockinette, but I actually don't know if this stitch pattern has a name, but there's some like slip stitches in between, and so it just has this kind of like texture on it, which is kind of the reason why I wanted to make it in the first place. I thought it looked really cool. And it is like a pretty standard like shaping, I feel like, of like a triangular shawl. So actually it's probably more like this, where it is increasing on the sides and also in the middle, like that. And the yarn I'm using for this is Lavender Fiber Co., the Valentine's Day Advent Minis from last year. And I'm just doing them all in order, so you can probably see it is kind of like a fade, and so that's why I decided to just use them all in the order. But there is definitely kind of like the switch from going from like day 14 back to 1. It's very like light colors, and then boom, it's like pink, and it's like mostly pink. There's basically like this pretty pronounced pink stripe, and then the rest is like a very light, variegated colors and different kind of like saturations of pastel pinks, blues, and greens. And I really like how it's coming out. Yeah, I think it's just very cute. It's very pink and feels very just like magical, I guess, like kind of colors. And the one thing that I did mention, here is my stitch marker progress for the week. It is right here. So I was at this row, got a few more there. This is going to start feeling like it's taking a while because the rows are increasing. Unlike the Midnight Jasmine wrap where each row gets smaller, this is in the opposite direction where each row gets longer. So it's going to start feeling long and take forever for each row, but I am determined to have this as a finished object. Last time I talked about weaving in the ends, and you'll see that I did try to weave in some ends here from the beginning just to see how it went. And Someone commented, and I did read the comment, that because there's so many ends, because I am switching colors every 4 rows, this one edge is going to feel noticeably thicker from all of the ends being woven in. And it is true, like if you were just to hold up here, you can tell that this edge is thicker than this side, but I don't know that I would notice it if I were like wearing it. Like I don't think it would bother me that much, and so I'm just gonna keep going with it like this, and yeah, I don't think that it'll bother me. But if you are doing this pattern and you think that that would bother you, I would definitely keep that in consideration. But yeah, I think if I keep weaving in ends, kind of like, not right after I'm done with them, but kind of just like make sure I am weaving in some ends before I like finish knitting the whole thing, that it'll make me feel better at the end. So that's what I am planning on doing, and it's been going well, actually. It has been, I don't know why it took me so long to memorize the pattern. Like I always am worried I'm going to, now that the rows are longer, I'm always like, wait, am I on row 1 or is this row 3 or 2 or 4 of the color I'm using? Because there's actually, I mean, between each of the colors, there's not that much of a difference. Like I can't tell what color I'm using and how many rows of that color I knit. It's really hard to do that, so I finally got the pattern in my head, like the stitch pattern and repeat, so now we're good. I don't have to look at the pattern, which is super nice, and I think that that helped contribute to me working on it a little bit more recently, because now I don't have to look at the pattern and read. So yeah, so that's the Daft Days shawl. It is a one size pattern, and I'm using US 3 needles. Although even though it's one size, you really could just like keep on knitting and increasing for the shawl to be bigger or smaller than you want, or if whatever you would like the size of it to be. So yeah, that's this finished, not finished object, one of my works in progress this week. Okay, I have my leg warmers I was talking about last week, was when I cast it on, and I worked on it a bit more. These are, I guess, kind of self-drafted because I'm not really following a pattern. However, I do want to make sure I mention that it was very inspired by the lovely ribbed leg warmers from Pearl Soho. I looked at the pattern and considered using the pattern, but I didn't like how the increases looked on it. And so I just looked at it to reference potential like cast on stitch numbers, but I'm not even using the stitch count, I believe, any of them that they have. Or unless I did, because I unintentionally maybe used one. But anyway, I just used it as like, I like a 2x2 rib leg warmer, and then I just cast on my own number of stitches, and I'm not planning on doing any increasing. So here is, sorry, I just like have it as like, it's like on my hand. This is my stitch marker from last week. So I've knit about probably double-ish of what I had last week, actually maybe a little more than that. And this actually used up an entire ball of yarn. I am using the Knit Picks Swish DK yarn in the colorway Marble Heather, and I think each ball is like 50 grams, so this is how much 50 grams got me. And it is very stretchy, like this, the ribbing is very stretchy. And yeah, again, I am just doing a straight tube of 2x2 rib. Now, there's concerns about it fit. So I am knitting this as a gift for my skating coach, and I have talked to her about this. So she knows that I'm making this for her, and she put an input, and she wants these to be very, very long. She has like bought leg warmers in the past. They're kind of like beat up, but she uses them, and so I asked her to if she could let me borrow them just so I could reference them for size and for length. And so I do have her old leg warmers, and so if they fit, or like, yeah, if these widthwise and lengthwise match the leg warmers that she has, I am pretty confident that it will fit her. So, but anyway, so my plan is, again, I don't like how the increasing looks on these leg warmers with the 2x2 rib, but someone gave, I think, a great suggestion. Some people might not like this suggestion, but I really like it, is to size up my needles for the part of the leg warmer that's going to be higher up, like above the knee, like around the thigh, because that's usually larger than around your ankle and your calf muscle area on your leg. So I do think that I am going to do that. But first, what I'm going to do, now that I'm at a great stopping point because I am done with one ball of yarn, I am going to put this on some stitch holders. I'm going to bring it to my next lesson with her and have her try it on just to make sure that it fits. It should fit, because when I compare the width to the leg warmers that she gave me, that she owns and wears, it matches up, and this is actually even, it can stretch even more than her other leg warmers, so I feel confident that it will fit. But what I think would be great is that I want to see with this stretch how high on her leg it will go, and then from that point I will know at what length on this I need to start making it a bit wider and go up a needle size. If that all made sense, I think it makes sense in my head, and so I'm hoping that, yeah, I can have her like try it on at my next lesson. But I don't know, maybe here, let me just like, is it weird? I just put it on my leg so you can just like see where, oh my gosh, I don't want to like fall off my chair. But this is where we're at lengthwise right now, which is not too bad. Actually, it's probably even lower. Also, she's slightly taller than me, and so her legs are a bit longer than mine's, but this is kind of where we're at. And she is going to, the way she wears her leg warmers with her skates is she does put the bottom part of it around the top part of the skate, but there's like enough stretch here to do that. And for me, even if I pulled this above my knee, I know this is gonna look kind of weird. Also, I've mentioned this before, like these leggings should fit snug around most, like all parts of the leg so that it doesn't fall down, because she is a good skater. Like, she's not like me. I'm a slow skater. She skates fast and aggressive, but like in a good way. And so she doesn't want the leggings to fall down when she's skating. So they do need to be fitted, but like even on me, oh my gosh, if I, actually, should I just like stand up? This, this fits around my like thigh area with like extra stretch to still stretch, and it doesn't feel like really tight. So I feel mostly confident that this will work for her, and I think especially if I go up a needle size to make it slightly, like have the circumference be slightly larger around the thigh area, that it should fit better. If, yeah. But anyway, I am planning on bringing this to my next lesson and have her try it on just to see where we're at. And so I'm kind of nervous about it, because if I'm completely off, I will be a little sad. But it didn't take me too long to knit all of this, and it was actually kind of relaxing to work on, so I wouldn't feel too bad if I had to rip out this whole thing. But maybe I won't. Maybe I wouldn't have to. Maybe just some of it, because I'm pretty confident that this would at least fit around her calf area on her leg. But anyway, we'll see. I'm nervous, but I feel mostly confident. But yeah, so that is how it looks. I'm actually like thinking about making some for myself eventually because I think it'll turn out pretty cute. And it's very basic to knit. Like, it's very easy to knit, and so I kind of feel like I want to make some for myself. Also might want to make some for my skating friends too, so we could all match or something. But anyway, that is, I feel like I talked about that a lot, and it's literally just a 2x2 rib tube. So I wouldn't think there's too much to talk about it, but I guess there is. So that is the progress update on those. Okay, finally onto the section where I talk about my newly cast on one thing, plus the sewing things I have to show you. So my one new cast on this week is a test knit for my friend Bridget, and this is there's no name for the pattern yet, but it is a Mobius brioche cowl, and I'm so excited because this is my first time test knitting for her. I didn't meet her until, what am I trying to say? Ever since I met her, she hasn't had a test knit or a pattern release. Or she's had a pattern release, but that was a test knit that happened before I met her. But anyway, I'm very excited to test knit for her for the first time, and so I'm just like really excited about that. But also because I'm using hand spun for this test knit, her version of this also uses her hand spun, and she actually there's two kinds of yarn, or two different yarn colors you can use. I mean, you can use one color too, but two colors or two yarns for this pattern. Bridget used hand spun for both, and I thought that was great, and I'm using hand spun for one of my colors, and I am using it is a kind of recent, was it my most recent finished spin? This is the Cormo fiber from Nest Fiber, and it is the colorway Garden Path, and you have never seen it in all wound up like this, and I love looking at hand spun when it's wound up like this because you can clearly or more clearly see the color changes and how it's going to knit up, or not, well, yeah, just like what the color changes will look like in what order, I guess. But are you ready to see what it looks like knit up? I'll explain more about what the pattern is too, but first, here it is. Oh, okay, I want to hold up because I feel like it's not intuitive to see the colors, like being able to picture what the colors will look like when you knit it up, even once it's wound up like this. Like, it's easier to see the color changes, but it's still hard to imagine. But so I will show both of them up like this. I wish that I had like a version in the skein and then a version unspun, like just the fiber, all next to each other, but like I'm not going to not spin some of the fiber just to do that. Like, I want to spin all the fiber. So, oh, but I could take a picture. But that's what I'm doing for my next, excuse me. I'm hoping that for my next spins and future spins, I will be, because I can't go back and take pictures of the fiber of this because I spun it all. Although you could, if you wanted to really see what the fiber looked like, you could go onto the Nest Fiber Instagram page, and she posts all of the monthly colorways, so you could see it there. But anyway, all I'm trying to say is for future finished spin projects, I'm hoping to also show, when I show the finished spin, to also show what the fiber looked like in the beginning, so you could see it next to each other, so that, because I always found it very interesting, like, or I always found myself like, what did the fiber look like before? I want to know. So anyway, this is Garden Path. That's the colorway for this fiber. This is what it looks like knit up. This is garter stitch in the round, and this is so the Mobius brioche cowl has 3 sections. You can see what this looks like on Bridget's Instagram page, and yeah, there's like 3 main, or 3 sections of this cowl, and the first section that you knit is the garter stitch section, which only is using one of the yarn that is for the pattern. There's, okay, 2 different yarns for the pattern. The first section you use like yarn A, like one of them, which for me this is the color changing hand spun that I'm using, garter stitch section. And then there's a second section where you use both of the yarn colors that you have, and then the third section is just your other yarn color. So I think that's a really cool way to use 2 different yarn colors. And speaking of different yarn colors, I will show you, I haven't knit with it yet for this project, but I am planning on using this yarn combination. I feel like I still have time to make a different decision if I decide to do a different color, but so far that's kind of what I'm thinking. Let me know if you think that this would look not great. But I think it'll look great, or I think at least it'll match color-wise. So that's what I'm planning so far for now for the second color. This is NovemberKnits Denali sock in the drift colorway. It's the same. It's like I have leftover yarn from when I used it for my gown cardigan, and so yeah, I have like a skein plus this left over, so I probably won't run out of yarn for this test knit. One thing I will say is the pattern calls for like sport weight-ish yarn, and I don't really have too much sport weight yarn in my stash, so I feel like my hand spun is maybe like maybe sport weight or heavy fingering weight size yarn. And just because there is some variance in my yarn, so sometimes I'm knitting with it, I'm like, whoa, that's kind of a thicker section, and some parts I'm like, oh, it's so thin. This is definitely like a fingering weight yarn, but the NovemberKnits fingering, the Denali sock, it's a 400 yard for 100 gram yarn, and I feel like it is slightly thicker than like a light, it is thicker than a light fingering weight yarn, and those are usually like a 430 something yard per 100 gram kind of skeins. And so I feel like it could maybe work. My fabric might be a little thinner if I'm trying to hit gauge for this pattern, but I'm just going to test it out and figure out what I'm going to do once I get there. But this hits gauge like pretty much spot on, so this part is fine. It'll just depend on how it looks when I added my second yarn, so things could change there, but that's kind of like the plan right now. But I have been loving working on this so far. Garter stitch in the round though is, I forgot that you have to purl every other round, so, but it, you know, honestly it's not too bad, especially when you're using your hand spun. You're kind of like, oh, it's so fun to use, so fun to knit with, so it kind of doesn't bother me too much, but it is kind of annoying. But honestly, I feel like I say that just because it's like, oh, purling, right? But it really isn't too bad, especially if you're like watching TV or like watching a movie. It's really not, it doesn't feel that bad to purl every other round. But I love how the colors are turning out on this, and how the striping's turning out. This is a fractal spin, and so I'm still trying to get more knitted up things to have examples on what a fractal spun yarn looks like when it's spun knitted. And I think it just mostly looks like stripes, which is kind of what I predicted, but some stripes have like a stronger kind of like color that comes out, especially since there is some barber pulling, which just means like the plies, this is a 2-ply, so like there's 2 different colors that are spun together, and there's usually kind of like a dominant color in each of those. But anyway, I actually really like how it's turning out, and so I'm excited to see what it looks like when more of it is knit up. But it's been good. And I've mentioned this back when I finished spinning this, that this was my first cormo fiber to spin, and I really liked it. Like, I really, really liked spinning with the cormo, and I really like how it feels, or like in the skein, and yeah, just like the yarn. So now that I have it knit up, I'm like, oh, I do really like this. Can't wait to finish this and see what it feels like around my neck. And then I kind of feel like my next sweater spin, if I can find something good, I would love to have a cormo hand spun sweater at some point, because I really like this fiber. So yeah, that's my new test knit, my first test knit of this year. I'm trying not to do too many test knits this year, just because I've got so many projects that I want to knit on, and I just feel, I'm starting to feel slightly overwhelmed with the amount of things I want to knit, and so I kind of feel like test knits, I don't want to be overwhelmed with test knits as well. So, but anyway, I'm happy to be doing this test knit for sure. And it's a small, it's a cowl, so it's not anything too big. The test knit is pretty short, it's a few weeks, so I feel, but it's, again, it's a small kind of like accessory knit, and so I don't feel pressured or anything time-wise for doing this. So yeah, that is this, the Mobius brioche cowl, although I think there will be a real name for it later when it comes closer to pattern release day. So yeah, that's what I have of this. Oh, and I am using US 4 needles for this. I did have to size up 1 needle size, but my gauge is good with the US 4 needles. Okay, next up. I don't know if you would all be that interested just because it's not knitting, but I did want to share it because it is like a making kind of work in progress type of thing. So I am by no means a sewer. I just try my best at sewing things. I think there's some patterns that look really cute, and then I try to make them. I've made some pretty cute things, but I will say if you kind of like look really closely at the things I've sewn, you'd be like, that's kind of like messy, but I try my best. And anyway, I really wanted to sew something this year. Just, the goal is one thing this year, and I think I will get more than one thing, but the goal was just 1 year. I didn't want to feel overwhelmed by it. And on top of that, okay, the actual thing I really don't like about sewing is the prep for it. I do not like having to print out the pieces. I don't like having to tape it together. I don't like cutting it out, because then you have to cut it out of the, well, okay, I used to cut out of the paper, but then I was like, are you dumb? Because if you ever want to make another size, you would have to reprint out and tape everything together again. So what I started doing, I have tracing paper, so now it's easy for reuse, but also I was like, when am I going to reuse these? But anyway, I have to print out the pattern, tape them all together. Then I have my tracing paper, and I have to trace out all of the pattern pieces that are the size that I'm going to make onto the pattern paper. I have to label all of them because I didn't label them the first time, and then I was confused. So it's basically just drawing out all the pattern pieces on your tracing paper, cutting all of them out, and then retracing it, or at least pinning them to your fabric to cut it out in your fabric. And at that point, I'm tired, my knees hurt because I'm doing this on the ground, because I don't have a counter space that's as big enough to do all of this. And by then, I'm like, why? I'd rather knit, is my attitude towards that. But I do really like some of the finished objects for the sewing. So anyway, trying to get myself back into sewing this year, I was like, let's start with something small, something simple, something with not that many pieces to have to cut out, something I already have the pieces, at least like the pattern pieces cut out, and so all I have to do is cut out the fabric so that I don't have to print anything, I don't have to tape together anything. So I cut out cut out the fabric for 2 different sewing patterns that I have sewn in the past that I want to make again. And this first one is the Lawrence top. This is a pattern by Vivian Xiao Chen. Actually, both of the things I cut fabric out for are by the same designer, Vivian Xiao Chen. And I do have the links to both of all of the things I talk about, I have the links to the patterns. I should anyway. And in the description, and so I don't know what kind of information to put for the sewing stuff, so if you have specific questions, feel free to comment your questions, but I do have like the names and stuff in the descriptions for this and also all the knitting stuff I talk about. But this is the Lawrence top, and there's different views of this pattern, and so I'm doing the one that has the V-neck and no sleeves, and so it's just a tank top. And here is what I have so far. Apologies for the creases. I was too lazy to bring out the ironing board. I know I probably should, but what are you gonna do? So this is what I have so far. It's a V-neck tank top. Very simple and easy. I think I've made the V-neck version before, and I've made the like round neck version with sleeves before as well. I don't like making sleeves, and so I was like, my very first sewing project back, no sleeves. But I got confused with the V-neck again. Actually, I remember, at least I thought I remembered when I did the V-neck the very first time, which I think this is one of the first things I sewed when I got my sewing machine. And so it was a very simple, pretty simple pattern if you follow the instructions. I couldn't understand the V-neck section this time, or like how to do the V. Basically, oh, what is this called? If you're a sewer, you'll be like, I don't know what I'm talking about, but there is like oh my gosh, what is it called? A piece of fabric that you, just to make the edges really nice, you kind of sew down this piece of fabric to the edges so that it looks really nice and has a nice edge. And I can't, okay, it's focusing on my face and not this, but I could not remember how to get this to fold really nicely in the V. And there's instructions, but for some reason my brain just wasn't working, but I don't think anyone's gonna look that closely at it anyway, so it's fine. But this is almost done. All I have to do now or next is do the same kind of like edging around both of the armholes, and then I have to sew the hem, which I think the hem is actually, there's the way that it's cut anyway, there's kind of like a flat section, so it's actually kind of where this crease is. It's a pretty like thick hem. But one interesting thing, at least I think is interesting, or I'm trying, I hope it works out. I lengthened this top from the pattern piece. When I first made this, I felt like it was going to be kind of cropped, but I didn't know how to adjust the length for this. I was like, let me just make it first, and then maybe I can like conceptualize like how to make it longer, because it's not like knitting where you can just like, oh, you can check, and if it's not long enough you can just like keep knitting. Once you cut the fabric, that's it, at least to my knowledge. Like, you kind of just need to know and decide when you cut the fabric, and you have to like measure it all out. So this time I did try to make the pattern pieces a little bit longer. I had to make sure that I made the front and back the same length longer, and that was a bit tricky, but I think it worked out because it kind of lined up. But anyway, that is the Lawrence top. feel like my voice is going now. But we're almost done, so that's that. I'm hoping to maybe finish this by next week so I could show it to you all. My first finished sewing project of the year, hopefully. And yeah, so that is that. Oh, I don't know what the fabric is. I got it from Joann's like a couple years ago, but I really like it. It's like a really light, I believe it's cotton. It's really light. It is pretty like see-through-ish, like it's very thin, but I think for like a tank top it's fine to have a very like thin fabric, and it has really cute, it's pink with some white flowers, so I think that'll look really cute. Okay, next, I basically just want to sew a lot of basic garments like tank tops and things that are just like easy to wear and put on. Okay, my next one I won't talk about too much because I cut out the fabric for it because I was like, I have to bring out so much stuff to cut out the fabric too. So I was like, since I'm cutting out for one pattern, I should just cut out fabric for a second one so I don't have excuses again to not sew a second thing. But I don't want to bring out all the pieces because they're kind of laying flat with the stuff in a somewhat organized way, so I just took a strip just to show you the fabric that I am going to use for this pattern. This is the Nephiline blouse, also by Vivian Xiao Chen. It is one that I have again made before, and so I had the pattern pieces cut out. I just needed to cut out the fabric. I've made a plain version of this previously. Like the first time I made this pattern, it was like a plain like beige color, and I really like it. I think it's a very cute pattern. It does have like 3/4 sleeves. It has some pleats on it. It's kind of like a balloon sleeve. It's a button shirt. It's kind of like a deeper scoop neck with some ruffles around the edge. There is a view that doesn't have the ruffles around the edge, but I think, yeah, there's like this edging ruffle thing. I think it's so cute, and I really like it. I do like my first version. However, my first version, I used a fabric that was really thick. It didn't seem like it would, I didn't think about it. It actually wasn't too thick as far as like wearing wise, but when it came to doing the ruffle, because the ruffle is just like fabric on fabric, because you have to like, yeah, it's ruffled, so the fabric is all like scrunched up together. Because the fabric was kind of thick, it was really hard to, because that ruffle part was also sandwiched between two more pieces of the fabric, and so all of that, it was like 4 layers of ruffled. It ended up pretty thick, and it's also kind of heavy. And so after I washed it, the top part of the ruffle kind of like droops down instead of standing up, just because I think the fabric's pretty thick. So I will still wear it, but maybe not out. Or if it is out, it's not for any particular, like, not to go out to dinner or something. It'd just be like out for a casual whatever kind of thing. But anyway, I wanted to make a patterned version of this as well. And so I am using this fabric, and it has some orange and pink and blue flowers on it. And this fabric, it's the same kind of fabric as the Lawrence top I'm making, and so it is very thin, and so I don't think that the ruffling and scrunching of the fabric will cause it to be like too thick or anything. And so I'm hoping that the same problem won't happen with this version of the top. But I think it will be really cute and like this florally kind of version in print. So those are the two sewing things I have kind of going right now. They're definitely not, the priority for them doesn't usually, I usually just prefer to knit or spin over sew, but I do want to have those sewn finished objects as well eventually. So yeah, so those are the two sewing objects, and that's actually all I have for my works in progress. Oh, but moving on to spinning, because I do have some spinning projects. I will say update on my sweater spin. There's no update. I did not work on my sweater spin at all this week, but I still love it. There's just a lot going on this past week. But I will show you, I did work on my other spin a little bit this week, and I'll just show you what that looks like so far. So this is my Union Fiber New Zealand treated Corriedale / nylon 80/20 fiber, and it just looks very pale pink right now, but as a reminder, and also because I want to do more of this comparison when I can, this is the other half of the fiber, and so I am done spinning half of the fiber, and now I have a half left. And yeah, it's just so interesting to see how blended the colors come out when you spin it, when there's kind of just more like splotches of colors, you know, because there's a lot of white on here in between these colors, and so I just find it very interesting to see that when you spin it, it actually ends up very blended. But yeah, I just wanted to show you kind of like, yeah, this is what the fiber looks like in fiber form still versus the spun up version. But yeah, we are getting there to finishing this. This is, again, my first spin using a fiber that has nylon in it, and I think it is the nylon that's making it kind of staticky. Like, I'm not shocking myself, but the fibers are just flaring, and it's kind of annoying. I don't know if I like it. I would probably try and spin another thing with nylon in it just to see if it happens again. But if the reason for it doing that is because of the nylon, I don't really like it. As of right now, that's what I'm going to say. So, yeah, that's my quick spinning update on that. And that's all the updates I have for the week. So, yeah. This week was kind of tiring. I know whenever I do these videos lately, I've been like, I'm always like, oh, I didn't work on that much stuff this week. Like, I really didn't. There's some days where I didn't knit. Like, what am I going to show? And then I'm like, oh, I guess I kind of worked on a few things and made some progress. So, anyway. Also, I get a lot of knitting done on the weekends, especially before I film on Saturdays, because I usually film in the later afternoon. I get a lot of knitting done in the morning on Saturdays. So, it kind of feels like almost like a fourth of my update of knitting is done Saturday mornings. But yeah, this morning I woke up at 5 a.m., which is not unusual, although it's usually more like between 5:30 and 6. But I got up early this morning, and I really, really wanted to knit since I didn't knit that much this week during the weekdays. But yeah, so I'm kind of tired today. I also did do I think I've mentioned this before, I do a virtual workout class thing for my ice skating on Saturdays in the afternoon, and I am so tired. My legs are going to hurt so bad tomorrow. We did a lot of like squatting stuff, and yeah, but it's good. I hope it helps with my skating. But anyway, sorry, that was really random ramble, but that is all I have to update you all on for this week. I hope you're all having a great week, a great day, and yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in next week's video. Bye!